so you're in trouble. It may be a long one, so I don't know what to tell you. So our cordless microphone system went out, and although I know people hate to be thanked in this church, Joanne found us a cordless set. I was able to get it hooked up, and so that's how we were able to do that. So the little box thing broke. It was just hopeless, helpless. I looked at it at 3:30 in the morning because I was worried about it to make sure we had it for Kevin's mom's funeral. So, but yeah, I found it was dead, and then she got it in time for us to hook it up Friday. So if you see her, thank her. Yeah, we can do that. All right. And then I need 3 people who are willing on the second Sunday of Advent to do a reading all together. One is going to be an angel, one is going to be a king, and one is going to be a shepherd. And all you have to do is like we just wear a crown. There's nothing, a shepherd, just a sheet over your head, and then an angel. I don't know, you can do an angel thing. But yeah, let me know at the door. Okay, perfect. All right. In the Spirit of Christ. Amen. In the Spirit of Christ. Thanksgiving for a lot of people these days comes down to 3 things: overeating, football, and maybe hunting or shopping. That's it. I come to Thanksgiving with a mixture of emotions. I don't know about you. Part of me is glad I'm still here. Have a meal with my daughter, my son-in-law, and my grandsons. I get to praise God. And part of me is sad because I miss the people I love that can't be at my table anymore. And the people that were only in my life for a season and they went their own way. I wonder how they are. I come to the table with tears of laughter and tears of sadness. It's a mixture. What I really come with are memories. How about you? First memory is, you can click. I got to be the official TGR, turkey gut remover. That is my job. I don't mean the real turkeys, I just mean the frozen neck. Don't think it's all heroic, that's gross. I'm not cutting a turkey, let somebody else do that. But my mom, she could never find the strength because the turkey was almost thawed, but never completely thawed. And she couldn't, and so, gosh, since I can remember, she'd wake me up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. Why, I have no idea, but then I'd have to come down and pull the guts, the neck, and all that sick stuff out. First time I did it, I gagged. And then it became a tradition. I even did it when I left home. I moved out on my own. 3:30 in the morning, I get a telephone call. I was young. Night before, wasn't kind to myself. My mom, could you come over and get the guts out? I was ready though. I had a friend as a nurse. I put on a set of scrubs, plastic gloves, a mask, let the surgery begin. But my favorite part was my mom and I would share coffee after the turkey was degutted. It's magical. A lot of life wisdom. Then there's a memory of my sister. My sister, not that she's a turkey, no, well, that's debatable too. She's an ordained elder in United Methodist Church. But before she stepped into that greatness, she became a vegetarian, over the top. So we're having Thanksgiving. You know, you wait for all your turkey, stuffing, potatoes, green bean casserole, and there's my sister sobbing, looking at the turkey that my dad is cutting, reminding us that this turkey was bred to die, that it got so fat and its breasts were so big that it just sat on the ground and waited for somebody to chop its neck off. That'll take the joy out of a meal. I did end up calling her a hypocrite, though. She had ham. Where do you think that comes from? But like, she's like, well, that's no, no. But the moment that we laughed about that is the moment she gave birth to her first child. She was still a vegetarian. She called me up and said, Mark, I want you to come here and get me a Wendy's hamburger. And I drove 2 hours to get her a hamburger. And that's stuff you're thankful for. And then I was single for a period, and so my kids all went to their moms for Thanksgiving, and I was alone on Thanksgiving, which really stinks. I mean, you don't think that it would, but so people, in order to have me not have a miserable Thanksgiving, invited me to their house, which I was very grateful for. But one family invited me, husband, wife, they had 4 kids. And they're like, will you come to Thanksgiving? I'm like, absolutely. The second I walk in the door, I know something's wrong. They're fighting with each other. I mean, it's not like a subtle fight. It is hatred. Like, I don't know what this guy did, but I think he's still unforgiven, still searching for salvation. I don't know what. But there I sat with her 4 kids. Mashed potatoes. But I was so thankful that they were kind enough, even though they were fighting. So let me eat Thanksgiving and break bread with them. And I was thankful that they repaired things. I was thankful that I could share that moment with them. And then there was a family. Normally when I get invited to Thanksgiving, I have to sit next to people that the rest of the family doesn't want to sit with. I got stuck next to Grandma. Grandma was not all in her mind, which was fine. I can talk to people not in their minds. I do it every week. People who've lost their minds completely. The problem was I had to fill her plate with food. So it would work this way. I get the mashed potatoes. I'm like, Grandma, you want some mashed potatoes? And she'd be like, yes, I want mashed potatoes. And so I'd take a plop, put it on her plate. I'd say, is that enough? Yeah. Then I would start to pass. Hold on, she'd say. I didn't get mashed potatoes. It happened with the green beans. It happened with the turkey. It happened with the yams. By the time we were done, her plate is this heaping. And then she looks at me and says, why would you fill my plate this way? I can't eat that much food. What a waste. And she stormed out. I was still very thankful that I got to be a part of their family. Then there was the family that they set me next to. This is not actually him, but it's a lot like the way he looked. He was the black sheep of the family. He didn't just have spikes, he had the kind that you drill into your head. And then he split his tongue down the middle and pierced both sides. He said, hello, and I did. I said, praise Jesus, but if you think I'm not going to make fun of that, you're sitting next to the wrong person. Like, that is something, can you do it again? And he had piercings everywhere. I didn't even know he could open his mouth. He had like so many. But you know, he was the sane one in the family. Like, he was by far the most normal. I didn't know that until we broke bread together. I gave thanks to God that God taught me not to judge a book by its cover. And then I think of my dad. You know, Thanksgiving's this church's holiday. It was my dad's too. I don't think he traced back to the Pilgrims, man, but this was the beginning of the new year for him. He always got dramatic. I know that probably surprises you. He'd always say, look, we're looking back where we've been. He'd name all the horrible stuff. We're looking at where we are today. He'd name the good, the bad stuff. And then he would dream with us about tomorrow. I miss that. But it's around those tables that I knew who I was, who I wanted to be. I learned that I didn't just show up to a table. I brought kind of my own table and chair to their table. I didn't leave behind the things that I believed in and the things that I found valuable, the things that I wanted to share. I brought them to that table and shared it with them, and they shared their stuff with me. And as I was preparing for this message, that's a lot like the Last Supper. Did you ever see the Last Supper as a Thanksgiving table? Jesus gathers his disciples on the Passover. And he breaks unleavened bread because the Passover celebrates when the people of Egypt were freed, or the people of Israel were freed from Egypt from slavery. They had to leave without their sourdough starter, and so the bread they had to eat was unleavened bread. Passover celebration, the spirit of death passed over them. Jesus wanted his disciples to celebrate that meal with him. At the Passover meal, you have like bitter herbs. You got like some nasty grain stuff. A lot of wine. And leg of lamb. Sort of like Thanksgiving. The bitter herbs remind you of bitterness. The sweet wine reminds you of goodness. The lamb reminds you of the Paschal lamb, whose blood you put on your door so the spirit of death would pass around you. But Jesus knew that the spirit of death wouldn't pass over him. That this would be the last meal he celebrated with them. That he was the Paschal lamb. And he wanted his friends close to him to share that moment where they broke bread and where they gave thanks. If you combine Luke's version and John's story, this is the way the Last Supper went. The disciples dreaded coming to this meal. Jesus has predicted his death 3 times. They knew this was not a happy occasion. And yet Jesus greeted them down on his knees with a basin of water. So I love you guys. Let me ease your burden. Let me wash your feet. Let me be your servant. Let me wash your feet. Then he said, I'm not going to be around much longer. So here's what I want you to remember. I'm giving you a new commandment. That you love one another as I have loved you. It's that simple. No doctrinal statement. No 500-page essay. With my last words to you, love one another the way I have loved you, sacrificially. There is God's love. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. Whoever believes in him may not perish but have life eternal. Indeed, God did not send the Son of the world to condemn the world, but in order that the world might be saved through him. He was our Paschal lamb. And he showed that sacrificial, unconditional, forgiving, ever-present love. That was at the table. Also at the table was human love. Conditional, not sacrificial. Always with an agenda. Always with I love you but, or I love you if, or I'll love you when. Those 2 types of love blended. And God, through Jesus Christ, said, despite that, I want you to step over to the side of agape love. Love unconditionally. It must have seemed like an impossible task, right? I mean, could you do it? I mean, it is the simplest thing ever, right? Love each other the way Jesus loved us. Accept each other the way Jesus accepted us, but we make it difficult, and people are messy. And those tables that we're going to sit down with are filled with people who are fighting, filled with people who have doubts, filled with people who are broken, filled with people who don't even know if they want to be there, filled with the black sheep, the no sheep, the outcast, the disenfranchised, those who think they're holier than thou, those who think they walk on water, those who think they created the earth. It's all at that messy table. When I was in high school, there's one of these teachers that if you talked in class, he would run up and grab your shoe and throw it out the window. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's some nuts, isn't it? And people just let him do it. Well, that happened to me once. I tried, he was sneaky. One day he picked the wrong person. It was our tackle. This dude made me look like a little mouse. He was solid. He was talking in class. The teacher came up to take his shoe. He stood up with the desk and said, "Ain't no way," and he walked out with the desk. I mention that because it's funny, but we get to decide what we bring to the table. Do we bring hope? Unconditional love? Peace? Promise? Compassion? The title of the sermon is A Brown Bed Thanksgiving. I'm going to end with that. I had a Jewish friend in high school. I was like 17 years old. I had known him for about 5 years. His dad was very Jewish and did all the ritual, spoke Hebrew. They invited me to their house for Thanksgiving. Now, here's my math, okay? And I said, "What time?" My friend said 6 o'clock. I'm like, "We eat at 1 o'clock. That means 2 Thanksgiving meals. That means I am going to have to wear stretch pants." I wolfed down my Thanksgiving meal, drove out to his house. It was a mansion. I had never seen this fancy in my life. It was like, wow. He invites me in. There are marble floors, a marble staircase, chandeliers. I had never seen that, and I thought, man, is this food going to be good? I don't know. If you're rich, you must eat. I mean, Lord, look at all this. If your chandelier looks like that, I have a light bulb above my table. You must have a turkey that, I don't know. You probably have hired someone to degut your turkey. They set me in the formal waiting room. Yeah, they had who has a formal waiting room? There were more bathrooms in this place than my whole house. Finally, the father comes out. He's like, "My son's in here, you can join us." And they take me to a dining hall. Yeah, like in a game of Clue. They had all the rooms, man. A big dining hall. Who would have thought? This long oak table, fancy china. I mean, my mom had china, but then there's china. Oh, my Lord. Like little golden, you're afraid to eat off of it. And the silverware must have been gold. I don't know why. Napkins. This is the first time I ever used a cloth napkin. They want me to wipe my mouth on that? You just use paper towel. Haven't you all heard? As I took my seat right next to the father, who's the head of the table, my friend on this side, I had the strange realization that I had missed something. There were no smells. None. I know what roasted turkey smells like. I can smell yams half a block away. Pumpkin pie, 2 miles. You make pumpkin pie, I may stop at your house. None. I'm a little confused. Finally, my friend's mom comes in and she has this loaf of brown bread. I don't even know what it was. It looked nasty. I'm not a big fan of rye bread unless it's on a Reuben, but it looked worse than rye bread. She put it on the middle of the table, and the father broke into prayer. My friend's mom went up and got a pitcher of water, came back. She filled up our glasses with water. My friend's father said another prayer in Hebrew. And he took a chunk of the bread, And he handed the loaf to me. I took a chunk. Handed it to my friend. He took a chunk. The mom took a chunk. And you ate it right away. I said there was some urgency I didn't understand. Because the bread was coming back and I had to take another chunk. Another chunk. Till it was all gone. And my friend's dad licked his finger and picked every crumb. We drank all the water. He had another prayer in Hebrew. And then he turned to me and says, this concludes our meal. I got to teach you all about Thanksgiving. You all missed something. He could tell I was confused. He said, would you join me in my study? Yeah, they had a study. Like that was probably confusing to you. I thought maybe my son prepared you. I'm like, nope. Nope, he thinks this is so crazy, I'm sure he told nobody. So my great-grandfather survived Nazi Germany. My grandfather was a kid, and they knew what was going on. They knew that all the Jewish people would gather to the ghettos. They knew that SS stormtroopers would come in, take them at night, put them on cattle cars, take them to Auschwitz or another concentration camp. They had heard that when you got there, you had to walk on tombstones, the tombstones of Jewish people, the graves they defiled. That when you got there, you got to take a shower or be gassed. They knew all this. And he was afraid. They moved to the ghettos. There had been 5 raids at night. People they knew were taken. They figured they were next. One night the whistles were blowing, shouts, anger. They were coming for them. He said my great-grandfather, he took my grandfather, his wife, and they ran down the street and I know where to go. And this Christian family opened the door and said, in here, now. My grandfather, his wife, my great-grandfather, and my grandfather. They took him to a room, said, shh, don't say anything. And he closed the door. Hidden room. The door opened a few minutes later. My great-grandmother, the lady of the house, gave my great-grandmother a loaf of brown bread and some water and said, I'm sorry, this is all I have in the world, but it'll do until I find you some more food. She closed the door. And in that darkness, they ate that brown bread and they drank that water, knowing it could be their last meal ever. And then they heard the door of the house being kicked in. They heard shouts. They heard gunshots. And they huddled down in the corner of that room and barely breathed. After 3 days, they came out, looked around. The family that had saved them had been shot to death because they had the audacity to stand up for a human being who happened to be Jewish. He said, Mark, I've set you up. I'm like, go ahead. It's like, since my great-grandfather, my grandfather, and my father have told me about this story, I don't understand that kind of love. Who would lay down their life for us, strangers? So I share with them my beliefs. Jesus would. And a follower of Jesus would too. It's just the way we're wired. Because we were at that table when Jesus broke the bread, gave it to them and said, do this in remembrance of me. And while you're at it, love each other as I have loved you. I hope you have the happiest of brown bread Thanksgiving that you can have. I want you to watch this video and we'll end.